Alright, in this video, I'm going to be quoting from the book The World of Marcus Garvey, Judith Stein, page 43. And we'll start here. Hubert Harrison, the founder of the Liberty League, was the leader of the Race First militants. His open agitation against lynching, segregation, Jim Crow, peonage, and disenfranchisement was an assault against the Republican politics of Tuskegee and its northern satellites. So you see how the Republicans were also in on the Tuskegee projects, even though they try to blame it on the liberals. And even the Jews noticed that both sides are corrupt. Now it goes on. Although Harlem blacks, like blacks throughout the country, voted Republican, the party of Lincoln had long ceased to represent them accurately. Vestigial republicanism masqueraded as urban politics in New York. The black GOP boss of New York was Charles Anderson, a protege of Booker T. Washington. Appointed collector of customs for the port of New York by Theodore Roosevelt, Anderson preferred the discreet infighting of elites to the open warfare of ward politicians. Even if his personal qualities had been different, Democratic control of city politics depreciated the promises of republicanism. GOP allegiance was a luxury only New York's wealthy could consistently afford. Black Democrats are regularly created out of the ambitions of local businessmen professionals and out of the disappointments of Republican office seekers. But the small social base and the narrow bill of complaint made it possible for Tammany boss Richard Croker to create a racial fiefdom run by Harvard-educated Ferdinand Q. Morton, who was like Charles Anderson, carried the priorities of the elite that dominated racial politics. So, this is the Jew who's pointing out that the elite dominates the racial politics. They're mad because Garvey's talking that fucking shit. They say, hey, we're more racial, we're more black than you are. And they go on applying the principles of Lynch, and we see how that plays out on page 51. Du Bois, who remained a part of the new group, shared their ideas. He concluded that the principle of self-determination cannot be wholly applied to semi-civilized people. The disposition of German Africa should be guided by the chiefs and Western educated elite of Africa, educated Afro-Americans, and the independent Negro government of Abyssinia, Libya, and Haiti. A new state should be created in Africa under the guidance of organized civilization, the thinking class of the future Negro world. But Du Bois soon retreated from advanced Afro-American opinion. While in Europe to investigate the conditions among black soldiers, he hastily assembled a Pan-African Congress in Paris in 1919. Tempered by the conservative French colonial elite, the Congress concluded only that Africans should be permitted to participate as soon as the level of development enabled them to do so. Participation should be extended at some future time. Africa is ruled by consent of the Africans. Words like independence, self-government, and even Pan-African participation were conspicuously absent. Africans in the British colonies did not dissent from their French colonial brothers. Casey Hayford's Gold Coast leader summarized the thinking of leading Africans up and down the East and West Coast when he asserted, "We cannot at present rule ourselves. Every other race has had to be under the tutelage of another nation more advanced in the science of government until such time as they were sufficiently advanced to manage their own affairs." So you see the kind of difference in the ideas of Booker T, Du Bois, and Garvey. So we go on to talk about, on page 169, excuse me, we'll start at 168, the bottom of the page, end at 169, go on to the next fucking book. Okay. Actually, we'll end it, because I don't want to lose what I've got so far, because of fucking these haters hate on me. So, Garvey's appeal to the powers that be was not only transmitted by intermediaries, he hammered away at the socialist views of some of the critics and emphasized his own political orthodoxy. He accused the NAACP of fomenting lynching by always endeavoring to encourage forced companionship between the races. As in the past, Garvey's attempt to maintain and control his constituency undercut his appeal to authority. Negro World headlines and handbills branded his critics 8 Uncle Tom Negroes and stool pigeons. He described one as a business exploiter who appealed to race patriotism while overcharging for his products. Another was a real estate shark. A third, a hair straightener and face bleacher. All were selfish grafters who have been living off the blood of the race. Garvey's rebuttal did not change things. Neither the appeal to the classes nor the masses seemed to work. He invited 300 prominent whites to a big rally in Carnegie Hall. Few appeared, and Garvey was not in good form that night. So, who was he trying to rally? The Carnegie guys. The Carnegie Institute motherfuckers. We're off killing blacks. They're like, we're not trying to hear your black militant talk, which is true, because we're too busy killing blacks and using the bootlickers to do it. Questions? Now, the Garvey Must Go campaign is kind of like the Chukwa Mecca Must Go campaign. Except for this time, you ain't dealing with a black man outnumbered. This time, you're dealing with the spiritual leader of the Crips. And we all know how it ends when you fuck with the Crips. Now we go on. The Garvey Must Go campaign of 1922 was the final act in the break-up of wartime radical politics. Although the polemics pantomimed real issues, it clarified none of them and brought out the worst characteristics of each contender. Every move stemmed from weakness. Garvey's attempt to penetrate the South had been an act of desperation. The meeting with Clark was a cartoon symbol of the commendation of his Southern strategy required. The resulting Garvey Must Go crusade by his opponents was simultaneously an attack on reactionary politics and on a radical rival. So, they're saying, we're going to do you like Garvey, we're going to put Garvey on the fucking cross, and we'll do the same to you or any other person who comes out of the fucking Christian community as a black man talking about black people are different and are better than your racist white power structure and your bootlicking middle-class white people. Must I remind you that movies and books were for the white upper and middle class to know, not for you. That's why when they start spreading the movies, the SOPA comes out. Why? Because they don't want people to see the movies that they want only rich people to see. Period.